Okay, so friends, we're here. We're gonna have a conversation with my friend Sarah. Let me tell a little backstory first. So I had posted that I was genuinely curious to hear other people's transformational stories. And Sarah just so happened to slide into my DMs and volunteer to tell me a little bit about her and where she comes from and where she's at today. A background on her that I know of is we met in high school, I believe. I didn't know you before high school, right?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. So I have memory of you just in high school. So in high school, Sarah was very quiet and kind of kept to herself. She didn't do like she was always helping in the office. Like she just had this amazing like personality, but I feel like she hid it a lot. And so I would kind of like have conversations with her just to try to make her feel good about herself because she's a freaking awesome person. And so, but she always just, that's just who Sarah was. She was just very quiet and kept to herself. And then she had literally posted, I don't know where she came from, out of nowhere. We lost touch after high school. And she posted something the other day, a video about law school and how busy she's been in law school. And I'm like, quiet Sarah is now like a badass in law school. So I need to figure out like what I missed and like how she is who she is and where she comes from. So Sarah, I'm going to give you the floor. You just go ahead and tell me a little bit about you. Just where you are now versus where you were. Like what's the difference? What do you think changed?
Oh gosh, from high school till now, lots changed.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I always wanted to be a lawyer. So when I was in high school, I was like, I'm sure everyone can relate to this. I was obsessed with Legally Blonde. I thought that Reese Witherspoon was like the best ever. And I was like quiet and I wasn't like super popular. Like, I mean, I had friends, and I have friends that I had in high school that I still have, but I just, I wasn't popular and I wasn't like noticed. And so I think that like everybody who doesn't feel seen kind of can relate to like Elle Woods in a way. You're like, yeah, I want to change the world. I want to be like that.
Yeah,
And so
totally.
I fell in love with that aspect of it or whatever. And then I was like, well, I mean, I'll just be a lawyer. And I like set on that and I was totally set on it. And then after high school, I was like over it. I was like, I don't want to go to college. I don't want to do that. So I went to beauty school. And then, life happened and I decided, no, like I really do want to be in school. And so I went back and I had people in my life who told me I basically couldn't do it. I wasn't smart
Mm,
enough. You wouldn't be successful. You're setting yourself up for disappointment, just like don't try. And
right.
it wasn't people I should have listened to, but obviously at the time I didn't feel that. I wasn't confident enough in myself not to listen to that voice in the back of my head that just kept telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't do it. And so I never
Right.
did. I never went. And then I obviously went through a really lot of change myself in beauty school. I gained like a ton of weight. I went through girls are mean, um, I was almost 400 pounds, 398 at my heaviest. They would moo at me when they walked by. They compared me to like the dancing hippo in Fantasia. Drew pictures of me with like the girl at the front desk at beauty school. I mean, they were I've never in my life experienced that kind of
Hatred.
bullying. Yeah. And it was from women.
Yes.
It was a woman who was actually probably my age now. So she was like, 35, 36 years old and she had kids and I had been with my whole class for like 6 weeks. We had bonded. I went through what I considered, heartbreak at 18 years
Really?
old. I
Yeah.
broke up with my high school boyfriend, found out he cheated. I just went through this whole mental thing. And I missed a week of school. It was like 4 days, but it was like, the week. And then I came back and she had told everybody, oh, she's a liar. She's crazy. And so like everyone in my class
Gosh.
that wasn't my friend when I left before this happened, was mean to me. And so it's just like from the beginning of beauty school all the way through, I dealt with these people who just decided that I was, I don't know, an easy target. And I don't hold that against anyone because I'm what it feels like to not feel good about yourself. And I know what it
Right.
feels like to find somebody who's an easier target than you to
Mm.
redirect people's focus. Because I did,
Right.
unfortunately, I did the same thing in high school, in just one time. But it's enough because as soon as I realized like what I was doing, I was like, I'm ruining this girl's life for no reason. And I had to like reach out to her and be like, that's me. That has nothing to do
Right.
with you, and I did it before we graduated. Thank goodness I had like the foresight, I guess, to see what I was doing to her. But these girls in
Right.
beauty school, they did not have that. And I have never spoken to them, forgiven them and moved on. And it's like, what it was. But that kind of broke me. And so
Right.
I gained a super ton of weight and I got super depressed. And it was like just a spiral from there. And then I lost 276 pounds when I was like 21, 22. And then I got into a very, very toxic, very, very abusive relationship, got married to someone who was verbally, physically, um, mentally very, very abusive. Um, he has substance abuse issues, so he was not the person that I had met, and put me through
Right.
a wall, several ribs, would scream at me for no reason. I mean, it was just a very, very toxic, very, very volatile relationship. And I didn't have the experience with relationships or the self awareness of what I was worth. I didn't have any self worth. And so I
Right.
just further spiraled down and just lost basically all hope for everything. Finally got out of that huge, just like,
How did you get out of that? How did you feel like what were the things that helped you kind of get out of that?
out of the relationship,
No, just out of
the spiral.
yes.
Um, I there,
What do you think changed there?
I think that, well, a lot of things changed. I thought at the time that I had hit rock bottom. I definitely did not. Um, I, I really thought that I had. And like I said, my ex husband, he had substance abuse issues. He was a heroin addict. He was also a felon, so he spent a lot of time in prison, in and out of prison. And his substance abuse exposed me to, and prison history exposed me to people and like parts of the world that I had no idea existed. And I was put in situations that, I mean, I couldn't fathom putting anybody I cared about in, but I didn't, hindsight's 2020 and you don't realize how bad it is until you're out. And so I think that at some point there was just a realization of what I was doing. Um,
Right.
and I have
Like it got so bad that you were like,
yeah, I mean,
something has to change.
yeah, it was almost like, is this my normal?
Right.
Because this is not normal. Like, I, this is not okay. And even the thing is even after that, when I had my realization and, I was thrown out of the house we were staying at. He told me to get out. He told me if I came back, that his friends that were there were going to beat the shit out of me. I was not welcome, and so I was stranded in up by like Lake Amanor, basically like Chester Westwood area. And I didn't have a car. He had totaled my car. He was a master at isolating me. So I mean, I literally had to rely on him for everything. That's how bad it had become in our relationship. And I had this moment where I'm sitting on a bench outside of a building in the middle of the night, and I found like an exterior plug, like in the wall, and I'm like, I have to charge my phone, so I'm sitting there. I don't have, I had none of my stuff originally. I had like snuck back into the house around in the back, packed my stuff, snuck back out. So because my phone was gonna die, and that was like my only lifeline. And I'm sitting on this bench, and I'm like, I'm screwed. I'm gonna die here. This is how my life is gonna be over. And I called my dad, and I have a very very, very, very phenomenal family. But at that time, um, they we had been very, very separated. And so I called my dad and I said, I need you to come get me. And he said, no. I'm going to get emotional, not because I don't mind talking about it. It's something I've talked about
I will
forever,
too. I
but
will too.
I have a very strong, very, 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 very strong and powerful relationship with my father. And so it just like gets to me sometimes when I think about it. But I called him and I said I needed him to come pick me up. And he told me no. He said, no, I'm not going to do that because by the time I get there, we're from Paradise, so it's like 2-hour drive. He's like, by the time I get there, you'll go back to him and I won't be needed anymore. And that really, I think that perfectly explains my relationship with my ex. It was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of me leaving and figuring out it was bad and going back.
Toxicity that your
And
dad knew.
he had seen it and he saw it before we got married. He saw it after we got married. I had lots of experiences like that where I left because I knew how toxic it was and I knew I shouldn't go back. And then I just got sucked back in, sucked back in, sucked back in, sucked back in. It was definitely a cycle. And so at that point, he said no. And I hung up the phone with him. I said, okay, I totally understand, because what do you say? And
Right.
I hung up and I sitting there on this bench and just the realization hit me. I have no one and I have no one to blame about that but myself. And so I called him back and I said, no, I'm serious this time. I need help. And I'm not going to, I don't know what to do. And he said, go to the police station, wait inside and I'll come get you. So I tried to go to the police station. I walked to the police station. They wouldn't let me sit in their lobby, wouldn't let me inside of the police station. So I called, they wouldn't let me in. They would not let me because it was closed. It's after hours and it was the middle of the night. I told them what was going on. They wouldn't let me. So to this day, I do not understand that. But in any case, I called back my dad and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, they won't let me in. And he said, well, you need to be somewhere. And I said, well, there's hotels on the other side of the street. I'll wait in the lobby of the hotel. And he said, okay. So I went and I waited. I literally waited in the lobby of a hotel. And my dad made the drive from Paradise to Chester or Westwood, wherever it actually was. I honestly couldn't tell you, in like 50 minutes.
Wow.
It's like a 2-hour drive. I have no idea. Yeah, I was not there long. And while I was there, my ex called me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Come on. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I never answered the phone. He left messages. He had his friends call me to try to get me to answer the phone. And one of his friends just texted me. None of those people would have touched me. I know that now, but I didn't then. One of his friends texted me, hey, don't tell me where you are. Don't tell me what your plan is. Are you okay? And I was like, I will be. And that was all I could do. And in that moment, I think I realized just how much I had allowed myself to become so pliable to somebody else's whims and somebody else who wasn't even in control of their own whims. And I'm sitting there in this lobby and I'm just, my life and my marriage and my self identity is being unraveled in my brain. And my dad got there. I got in my dad's truck and I fell asleep immediately. And I think it's the first time that without any fear of repercussions or being woken up and being hit because I fell asleep too early or the light was left on or I was rude to a friend or I worked too late. I was wearing too much makeup. I overcooked the chicken, whatever the case may be. I had been living in this bubble of fear for so long. And honestly, I think that was the moment that I realized that it wasn't just me helping somebody through something, which is, I think, the spin I had put on it for so long. It was me allowing myself. Well, and I don't see myself as a victim. Even after that.
You don't now, but that's how you felt. Like you were the victim in that situation because he was using you and you didn't know, like you weren't you weren't aware of what that meant because it was your normal for so long.
So long. And that's what's crazy, I think. And people ask me all the time, why didn't you leave? And it's like, even after that, I came home, I moved in with my parents, tried to figure out, my life at that point. And less than a month later, he had gotten really, really high on meth. He came back into Chico, kidnapped me from a friend's birthday party, broke a window in somebody's car, stole it. I literally was warned by a bouncer when we were leaving. We were at like a bar downtown Chico for my friend's birthday party. And we left and we were all leaving together. And I was warned by a bouncer, hey, he's here and he's looking for you. We didn't let him in. But he's here, he's in town. And because I knew all of the people that worked there, it's why we were at that bar. And so I was like, okay. And I was nervous. And so I was going around a corner to get to the car faster. And my friends were behind me, just right around the corner. And it was that fast, I was gone. And yeah. And it was just one of those situations where I have buried so deep that night and everything that had happened. But what I can tell you is, revisiting after so many therapies and hypnosis, to like not relive the trauma or whatever, is that it wasn't like a snatch and drag kind of thing. It was more like he showed up and I didn't know how not to listen to what he had to tell me. So
Right.
when he was there, it was like my whole sense of self-preservation, everything just shut down. And I originally just went with him. And then, he took me to Jack's, which is like a restaurant in downtown. And I sat there and he had my phone and he went to the bathroom. I took my phone, I texted my friend and I said, this is where I'm at. Send the police, because I knew I wasn't okay. As soon as he left, like my, I got my self-awareness back, and she was drunk and I think she thought I was kidding. And so she never, and it was, and I don't blame her for that. It was just, I don't think that she quite understood exactly what was happening. And then, he stopped at a hotel and a gas station and I got out and started running. He ended up taking me to Paradise. Thank God. I don't know what went through his mind to take me from Chico to Paradise, but he took me to Paradise, and that's my town. But our first apartment was there.
Know that town.
Right? It's my town. Our first apartment was there, him and I. And so he took me to an apartment where we fell in love, so that I could understand why he was the right person for me and how we were going to be together. And like I said, drugs. So not a bad human, bad decisions, bad decisions. And so he took me there and I started playing a game with him, like, I'm going to leave from the truck in the parking lot of our old apartment complex. And I did it until he realized that I was joking. And then I dipped. Ran. And God help me. I wore flats to the bar, to this birthday party for the first time, and I don't even know when. I am like the queen of 5-6 inch stilettos. I was wearing flats. I have no idea why. It was just one of those divine intervention kind of a thing that
I know why.
Right? Right?
Right there, sister.
100%.
Yes.
It's the things that happen.
You're wearing flip-flops today.
Yeah. I was wearing flat shoes. And I'm telling you, I can't. I was wearing pants and flat shoes to a birthday party. I am like the queen of dressing up and overdressing for birthday parties to celebrate. I am like the queen. Nope. Didn't. I was wearing pants and I was wearing flat shoes. And the whole time that he was with me, I had like glass shards all down my spine. He raped me multiple times. It was like a really bad thing. So by the time I got to the parking lot, I got out and I ran from almost the high school on Elliott, and I hid in bushes and trees and got to the police station because he didn't know where it was or how to get there. So he was just looking for me. He doesn't know where I'm going because he doesn't know the town. Again, talk about a God
by
thing.
The grace of God.
Yes. And awesome. There's a street in Paradise called Willow, and it goes from so if you're going from Elliott, to I don't even like all of the streets in Paradise just went out of my head. I just got nervous except not,
Oh,
none,
I'm
except,
bad with street names
well,
anyways.
it's
I
like,
just go
but it's
by.
like a street that literally goes back around. So it's like not a main road to get you from like the street the high school is on to the police station. It's like other than that main
Oh,
road. And
yeah.
my best friend growing up lived on that road, so I knew it existed. Otherwise, literally would have never known it. I mean,
I
there's
never knew.
no reason for me to know that.
Another God thing in the story.
Hmm. Yes,
I
yeah,
love it.
100%. And I showed up at the police station, and again, it's closed. And I pick up the phone, and I had the realization as soon as I picked up the phone that I was gonna live. I was like, I wasn't gonna die that night. And I barely got it out. I said, my name is Sarah Brown and I need help. And she said, baby girl, your mom already called us. You come in right now. And she buzzed me in, and I literally made it like two steps into the police station and just collapsed. I lost it. And I didn't know, but he had texted my mom and told her she was never going to see me again, that he was doing it for my own good, that I had brought it upon myself. I was misbehaving. He had done it from my phone. And so I
My
didn't
God.
press charges that night. I wasn't going to press charges against him. It wasn't until, because he got arrested and taken to jail, and so my phone, because I had my phone, was in his personal belongings. I had to get it. It took like, I got it like the next day. A cop delivered it to my house. Hey, here's your phone from like the personal effects, whatever. And that is when I saw what he did to my mom, and that is why I decided to press charges. I went back into the police station the next day after that, and
Oh, that gave me the chills.
press charges. Yeah. The craziest thing about this story, and this is what people don't understand, and so you're asking me like how I got out of the spiral, and this is the part of the story that people don't understand, is after all of that, when he was in prison for kidnapping and raping and threatening to kill my father, threatening my mother, all of the things
Yes.
that transpired, he's in prison. I took him back.
Oh, Sarah.
I was going to make it work. It was going to be better. He said all of the things that, you say to somebody who you isolate, I guess. And I, yeah, while he was in prison, he would call me everything. And my, um, yeah, my moment, my moment of true realization, and that's why, that's why it's such a weird thing. Um, but I call it like my light bulb moment. It's when all of a sudden, it's like, you're sitting in like this really dark room, and you think that like the natural light is enough to really see what's going on. And then all of a sudden the light bulb comes on, and you're like, I gotta get out of here. Like, there's ghosts, like a werewolf coming out of the corner. Like, I gotta go. I was sitting in a sushi restaurant, and he called me, and from prison. I was sitting in a sushi restaurant with my best friend, Crystal, and a old coworker of hers. And we're sitting there, and he called me, and he started yelling at me for being out with friends while I put him in prison. So I've ruined his life. I put him in prison, and I'm just out with my friends having sushi, and how dare I? And so I'm like, oh, like the reception's so bad. I have to go outside. And so I did that like twice. And then I came in during one of the times, and my best friend's coworker is asking her, like, who is she talking to? Because I've left like weird. And he's just like, what is going on? And she told him, and he had met my ex, or my husband, when we were dating. So he knew what I had been through with him. And he said, and I'm pretty sure I was still on the phone, but he had stopped yelling at me. And he was like, are you kidding me right now? And Crystal said, it's none of your business. He's a perfectly fine person when he's sober. It's her life and it's her decisions, and you don't get to have anything about it. And so we're going to move on. And she just like moved on. It's like not verbatim, obviously, but that's what she just shut him down for me.
Mm-hmm.
Advocating for my life, my decisions. You don't get to have an opinion. And I'm sitting there, and he's yelling at me, irritated. And I think at that point, even he had said, I was just upset, and I want to be able to experience these things with you. I think he's in that section, of the thing. I'm like, I'm being so rude. I'm at this restaurant, and I gotta go. And I hung up the phone, and I put it down, and that was it. It was all of a sudden, I was like, this isn't just me. I'm putting my choices to be led through this toxic experience. And people like Crystal are defending me because they love me so much that they're going to love me through whatever I need to go through. And I was
Right.
like, I can't do this anymore. And that was it. I filed for divorce and got a restraining order and got out. He was released from prison and he would call me, text me, show up at my place of work. He harassed me for years, called me repeatedly. I took his calls and responded to his texts in a civil way. 2020, 2021, he called me. Still have the voicemail on my phone every time because I was terrified that something was going to happen and I need to use it in court. 2020, I want to say. Now I was divorced in 2014. So in 2020, he called me and I don't know the number, so I don't answer. And I see it's him and he leaves a voicemail and I listen to it. And he's asking me, I don't know, email recovery password that's in my email for his email, something like that, because he just got out of prison. And I listened to it and I was like, nope, I don't need to save space for this person in my world. And I never spoke to him again. He OD'd a year later.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it took me, 7 years of taking phone calls and responding to text messages and still letting him have access to me before I realized that just the access was too much. So I guess like,
It's crazy how those people just kind of ease their way in whatever way that they possibly can to
mhm,
manipulate you to believe something that is not your own belief. You know what I mean? Like, and then that's what happened is eventually your light bulb went off and you're like, this is not normal. But it's so easy to get sucked into it because you just, it is your normal, becomes your normal. Like you love these people and you expect these people to not abuse your love, and then they like it just becomes this thing. And so I cannot thank you enough for being so vulnerable and going there, because that is like beyond anything that I have ever knew about what, like we obviously lost contact. And so I'm just like, this is why I love this stuff, because it just proves how strong women really are. To close, my last question, honestly, is like, how are you tying this to law?
mm,
Like, what is it about? Like, how did that happen?
yeah. So when I was going through everything, all of the court stuff for him, he was
Uh-huh.
in prison. I was out. I had to divorce him when he was in prison. I went through all of these things and he was adamant that he never took me, that he never touched me physically. He never physically assaulted me. I mean, I had like documentation. Didn't matter.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was a liar, everything. And the I went through, I think it was three, might have been four DAs or ADAs during the process. Saw firsthand that the system re-victimizes domestic violence survivors. And I I was at a point in my life where didn't know I didn't know or I didn't think I was capable of doing anything to change that,
Right.
except for show up and be a buddy. And I did that for a lot of people after I went through my experience. When I found out somebody was going through that and they wanted to talk to me about it and they had court appearances, I went and I held their hand so they weren't alone. I went and I showed up and sat in the gallery so that they didn't have to face their abuser by themselves. Because that was what I could do. And it's what I wish I had had from somebody other than my parents went to everything I needed to do. I mean, I had a very, very solid support system. I mean, and like I said, I had my best friend who is just like the fiercest protector and advocate and ally for me no matter what. And so I was fortunate in that a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people have been manipulated out of it. And so then when the system re-victimizes you by making you not only relive it, but I mean, I had to tell my story detail, and be picked apart essentially by the AD because it's their job, like 3, 4, 5 different times from different people. And so when I was realizing after when COVID hit and, I was in the beauty industry, so everything's just gone. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I was like, oh, you know what? It's time. I'm going to go to law school and I'm going to become the type of attorney that I wish existed when I went through it. So that's why I finally decided to go back, is because I decided to be the person that I wish existed when I went through it, so that nobody, if I have the power to do it, even if it's a little change, if I can help one person through that kind of a process that's already so traumatizing and so re-traumatizing and so emotional and so up and down and so frustrating. I mean, my ex-husband was a 3-strike felon. He did all of those things to me and he was out in 18 months. Back released into the same town.
You are going to be like the best at your job. And this is honestly why I love this stuff, is because our stories become who we are and become how we serve other people. But we're stuck trying to do, save people when really we need to be saving ourselves, and just learning how to use what we've gone through as something to serve, and you're going to be the best at what you do because of, what it's like, what the experience is, you know what I mean? So it is a beautiful thing. It's like, it's why I repeatedly say it's beauty from ashes. No matter what way you look at it, it's beauty from ashes, because it comes around full circle and you're going to use all of it as fuel to help other people in the world. And I'm going to need to know how, like, I'll put a little description in the comments or something for people to, if they can relate to your story, and maybe if they wanted to reach out to you or something along the lines of, because it's so relatable. Like, it's so relatable to so many people, you have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
it's, I have a different experience and my trauma is way completely different than that, which is why I feel called to do things like this, to share, to give the people the ability to share their unique stories and what they've been through, because it is to be used for a service to the world somehow, some way. And sometimes it takes like years, like you've got, you went through that for a long time until your light bulb came on, you know what I mean? So, but when you can look back, you can see all the little God blessings throughout all of it. You know what I mean? Like, you just do. And it's the most beautiful thing. And I just feel like it's a gift that is free that we can give to other people just by sharing our stories. So that's where my job comes into all this. And it's the best thing ever. And I'm so, so excited we got to like reconnect, because it's been so many years and so much, like you said before, so much has happened that it's like, I'm like, I cannot, now we will be in touch, because you're freaking badass and we will not lose this connection here. I want to keep this going. So I'm going to let you go for now, but thank you for being as vulnerable as you were today. It means the world, not only to me, but I don't know how many other people will get the opportunity to see it, and the hearts you will touch, because there's probably so many people still stuck in that situation that you were in that feel extremely alone right now. And it could just be this one thing that gives them that little bit of hope that they need to just keep, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You have to do what's right for you and stay focused on you, and not serving, trying to save other people that are, in a mental prison that they aren't sure how to get out of, and we're empathetic people who want to try to save the world, and it just doesn't work like that. It doesn't. It's a lesson, and it's an experience of itself, but it's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.